this conversation needs to be had. I don't have any followers though, so I don't know. I just feel like this is a conversation that needs to be had because clearly there are people who can't have it without acting crazy. Trying to wait on anybody to come on here when I have this talk. Because this is ridiculous. I need to put my stuff up. I don't know, I'll probably start talking like a minute or two in. I don't play the game anymore.
Can we trade chargers?
Yeah.
Ooh. There you go. About to stream again?
No.
Just record?
Hold it.
Yes, ma'am.
No.
What you doing?
Just, hey.
Okay.
Alright, well, I was going to make this a live, but clearly, you know, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't have no followers. So I'm just going to talk about what I just experienced and what I have been experiencing, what I'm noticing going on. Just a disclaimer, if this is my way, I don't care how y'all feel about it. This is my criticism for both the Black American and the African. It's going to be a lot of people mad. I don't give a fuck at this point because I'm tired of the BS, for real. So, I was just in this group on, what is it called? Dang, I don't know. I was just in this group on Clubhouse, and I should have streamed myself playing. Y'all about to go to bed. It's late. Where's my remote? I done fell asleep playing the video game. You can't find the remote. Oh, there it is. So I was on Clubhouse, and there was a conversation going on, and it was titled Ari Lennox Extreme Tourism or something like that. And I don't know, I guess it was I saw a Ghanaian flag, so I'm guessing it was involving the country of Ghana. And I see this a lot among the diaspora. There's this huge argument about privilege and being the oppressor, and whether or not we're becoming the new oppressors. And I'm gonna just get straight to it. Like, I honestly feel like, and I'm not, cause stay with me. So I honestly feel like there's this huge, I don't know if it's like a fear, I guess you could say, or a stigma, but there's definitely a stigma about who the American black person is and what they represent and how they act. In reality, the black American experience that these women were referring to or that they were talking about, honestly, they come from, I hate to say it like this, but it comes from ignorant ass black people. Like, the people that she was referring to, and when we're talking about, ignorant ass black people who have jokes about African booty scratchers and this and that and that. Also, real quick disclaimer, whether they're ignorant or not, let's not, and I'm not saying it's okay, but let's not front like Africans don't have jokes about the American black person. Like, foreigners don't have stigmas and things specific that they say involving black Americans. So I'm really tired of this whole, black Americans, I don't know. It's basically, okay, so I got in a conversation and they were talking about how black people come, they feel like black people coming to Africa is becoming an issue. That they're buying up property and they're spending their money over there and then they're getting on Instagram and flexing it. First of all, I'm going to touch on some other things, but I'm going to start with something simple. First of all, if I don't know, if I am a country or if I am the mayor of a city, right? A small city, and I have no tourism, or very little anything, and I already have very little money. Because I find it really funny, that I see this before, like, y'all have all the smoke with Americans coming to Africa and buying property and buying housing and living their lives there, right? But I don't see none of this same smoke for the French. I don't see none of this same smoke for the Chinese. I don't see none of that same smoke for the Arabs, okay? Not online. Not as far as like how they talking about it. If anything, y'all didn't accept them into y'all goddamn community. And I could be wrong, because what I was trying to explain to them was there's a huge gap involving the African and the black American. And the gap that I've noticed, that I have seen, is miseducation on both ends. Because when I said this, she was like, well, there's no excuse. We have smartphones. We have this and that. I'm sorry, ma'am. But somebody who's 30 years old, who is an uneducated motherfucker, I'm talking their parents ain't really educated or aren't educated in that specific area, at least. If they don't know, you have to understand, as an American black person, as a black American, and I know y'all always like, you throw your race around. Ma'am, understand, as a black American person, any person of color, especially if you're brown in America, all they teach you is race. They identify you by your race, okay? Like, they look at me and they go, you are a black person. And then they proceed to educate you a certain way. They proceed to medicate you even, or lack thereof, in a certain way. So what you're talking about here, if we're talking about grown-ups here, you're talking about anyone in their late 20s and 30s who, if they weren't fortunate enough to have some type of explorative type of mindset, or a family member to teach them that, or someone who was educated, and I don't mean like college educated necessarily, like I'm just saying in general, just educated enough to teach them to educate themselves, 9 times out of 10, they don't even know how to educate themselves. And then when they do become of a certain age where all these things are now available to us, because she's talking like, oh, there's smartphones, like this stuff been out for that damn long. In reality, in my lifetime as a 30-year-old woman, we have not had this much access. You feel me? Internet access has always been a thing, yes. But like I was saying, with that being said, these people, even in their day-to-day, because she talked about how we are privileged once we step outside of the American continent, which I don't agree, because in reality, until I open my mouth, nobody even knows I'm American. Okay, like I mean, or African, like you wouldn't know as any black person, because our phenotype can be all over the US. In reality, before they assume anything about what country you're from or what nationality you are, they see you as black. Not a good thing, okay? Not saying that anybody should go around claiming they're black. If you identify as whatever you identify and you know who you are, by all means, know and understand that and claim that. But what I'm saying to you is other people from other countries can't differentiate the two. So I can't be oppressed in America and then go to a predominantly anywhere else in America other than Africa, or a place where black people are the predominant race, and be considered privileged. That doesn't happen. Honestly, the people who do go in these other countries and are like, and there was a girl in the group who was stating that the people who do have the privileges, the opportunities to do so, are already in an elitist class or in a better class, or at least have more money or more opportunity than your average black person, okay? So yes, they may or may not act privileged because they somehow made it up in their mind that they are, based on the fact that they've upped their class level a little bit, okay? But and so when you run into people like that, those are the people that you're experiencing. You're not experiencing the average black person. And then one girl pointed out, well, African booty scratcher, and like, I guess the other side of that I'm talking about, which is why I said there is an ignorant black person as well. Because in reality, first of all, if we're talking about the African booty scratcher thing, the whole African booty scratcher term, that is some dumbass shit that some kid made up. Those are kids, children, okay? So let's talk about adults before anybody ever gets on here talking about that term. You're talking about a term that kids used 10, 20 years ago, because I'm 30. So the girl in the group had to be at least my age. You're talking about children who say mean things to their own, whether you be African, black, white, it don't matter. Kids will be kids. So I'm trying to have an adult conversation here. I'm trying to talk to them about basically, anyway, back to the gap. Our people reject your overt race pimping. Okay. I think I hear what you're saying with that, but I want y'all to understand that we didn't teach ourselves race. We don't claim race. There is no race pimping for us. It's not pimping over here. If I claim I'm black, that's not pimping by any means. If anything, everyone else looks at black as the lowest of the lowest of the lowest, okay? So it's not race pimping. We honestly don't gain anything from being black. Not over here, not in another country, not in y'all country. Because like I said, until I open my mouth, a motherfucker really wouldn't know where I was from. You see what I'm saying? So black people, if we go to Africa, if we had the opportunity to go, or we go to some place like, exactly, now he don't want to be there. When they have the opportunity to go to a country where there are other people of the same skin tone as them, they're not looking at you like an outsider. If anything, they feel at home, or they feel like an equal, okay? We feel like we're able to be around equals. And I know I'm going to get a lot from, he said our people, I'm going to get a lot from foreigners, and I understand it. To be honest, I totally do. Like I said, there are definitely some ignorant ass folk. There are definitely, and then also, to be honest, as someone who has been oppressed, the oppressors have doubled down really hard on the mentality of race and oppression and stuff like that. So it's kind of like being a victim of an abusive relationship. If I am used to men who have been abusers, for example, this is just an analogy, but if I am a woman who is used to a man who always cheats on me, or a man who is an abuser or a narcissist type of man, then in reality, if I've never had any good relationship with a man, I'm always walking on eggshells about what that man may or may not do, or what type of person that man is, okay? Honestly. So I do understand it, why they assume that there's some sort of race pimping and whatever going on. But what I was trying to get to is, I want the other side. And I mean, when I say the other side, anybody who is not a black American. I want you to understand that when somebody claims being black or calling themselves black American, it's not necessarily race pimping. It's more like, I guess you could say, kinship or brotherhood or sisterhood, whichever. Because to us, all our lives, we have been taught that we are black. Literally, if y'all know the history, which I'm sure everyone does at this point, everything about our heritage or whomever we are has been completely washed away, buried, whatever you want to call it, okay? Like, they have completely stripped away our identity. So we honestly don't know who the fuck we are. That's why there are so many Americans going through this back and forth of whether or not they are actually African descendants and whether or not they're actually Native American descendants, because we're finding more and more information in this day and age that a lot of black quote-unquote people have always been descendants of Americans long before even slavery. So there's a reason why we identify race. It's funny because they're always like, black people are so concerned with race. Black people are so concerned with race. And it's not that we as a people are concerned with race. You have to identify you have to understand, if I identify as black, it's because that's like your name. When you're a baby, if they tell you your name is Kalina, then that's what you go by, because that's what you've always known your name to be. If your mom was named Kalina, you think her name is Kalina, because see, it's not just, they always say there's no excuse. We're not just talking, I'm 30, right? So we're not just talking 30 years of unlearning that I only have to do. We're talking about generational unlearning of things. Like, literally, y'all are asking people or expecting people who have been under these generational curses or lies or whatever you want to call it for over 400 years to just somehow learn, especially at a time where so long none of that information was available to us, to learn who they are. As if it's that damn simple. As if DNA tests tell you exactly, like, DNA tests are so fucking vague. You get on a DNA test and you go look at it and it's like, if me and 10 other black people that I don't even know of take the same DNA test, it's gonna tell, it's gonna tell us pretty much all the same vague ass information. So miss me with that. But anyway, I said that to say this, like I said, if I leave this country, or for example, I saw a TikTok of a girl who was Russian, okay? A black Russian. She claimed she was black. I'm not calling her black. But that's another thing. Like, when y'all get in these other countries, like, when they ask you, they may ask you where you're from. But they use the term immigrant. They literally coin y'all as immigrants. Let's start it there. In reality, like I said, they don't see Ghana, like, they don't see someone from Ghana, they don't see someone from Tanzania or something like that. They either see an African, which could also be an assumption, because that's what they were saying. The girl was trying to explain, well, I'm Russian. And they're like, but you're black. And she was like, I know, but I'm Russian. And she's like, well, then you must be an immigrant. And they were like, no, my parents were from Russia, my such and such were from Russia, everybody I know is from Russia, I'm Russian. Like, and they're like, well, that can't be possible. And like I said, and that was the point I was trying to make, is other people, black, white, in between, whatever you want to call it, when they first look at you at face value, all they see is a quote-unquote black person, okay? So it may be different for you as someone who is from an African country, because you can claim exactly who you are, exactly what your tribe is, because for your entire generation, for your whole entire life, your mom's entire life, your grandma's entire life, all of those who came before you have always been in those areas. Nothing, your records weren't wiped. You know what I'm saying? Like, you weren't told that you can't speak your native language. Your grandmother wasn't told that stuff. So you have the privilege, I guess you could say, since we're throwing that word around, you have the privilege as an African person of knowing exactly who you are. In America, we don't have that privilege, okay? which is why we then identify as black. I don't know what other way to put that, how else to explain that to people. Anyway, then he goes off and is saying, we don't want you imposing your privilege. And I'm trying to figure out what privilege we have. Other than, I will say, if we're talking the dollar amount, like if I took my $500 and converted it to I don't even know what you call it, the francs, the money over in Gambia, it is a lot more. But did I, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't choose that. I kind of don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have nothing to do with your government and how they make, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even have anything to do with my government and how we make my money. Because $500 over here in America is broke. It's not enough to pay your rent. That's nothing. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, if, let's say I take $500 and I go to the Gambia and I relocate there, and now I buy an apartment and I do all of this. That's what I was saying earlier, like as somebody who would be a city mayor, for example, why would I be upset that someone is showing off where they live? Because in reality, Americans, or people in general, because we're not gonna front like it's just Americans, Africans do it every day. I can put it up on my TikTok. I can pull it up on my Instagram, because I follow a lot of people who are either natives from Africa or their parents were immigrants from Africa, but they come over here and do the same thing. So it's not necessarily about bragging and saying, oh, I got it, or trying to become an oppressor. Number one, if I put my money into your country, that is literally me. Like, if I literally have made the decision to live in your country and buy a home in your country, and they're not going to tourist spots, not the ones that I've seen, you feel me? The people that I have seen that live in these areas, live in local areas, even if they're buying bigger houses or whatever. You see what I'm saying? Like, y'all saying that, like, and this is the point I was making, like, y'all saying that, like, all of y'all live in, you know what I'm saying? Like, y'all live in these areas, in these neighborhoods where these Americans are moving to. There are Africans who are their neighbors, not other black Americans. You know, and like the girl was saying, well, that's a small portion. Exactly. That's a small portion. So the other Americans who are coming over there, what are they doing? Because there's not that many black Americans coming to Africa anyway. And the ones that are going over there, they're either going to visit and have a good time. I don't know how you can regulate someone having a good time. When you go vacation somewhere, when y'all go vacation in Paris or in the Bahamas or wherever you want to go vacation, do you not take pictures? As an African or as someone else who is not a black American, like, do y'all not take pictures? Do you not capture the moment? Because I don't see why that's a bad thing. And then even if they are capturing the moment and saying, oh, I got this, because they're not shitting on you at all. If anything, they trying to shit on the people from back home who don't leave their fucking house and don't go nowhere. I don't condone in it, but you know what I'm saying? Like, they're shitting on them. You feel me? Like, oh, look at y'all not doing shit with y'all life. Look at you spending $2,000 on a Gucci bag, and I spent my $2,000 to go explore and see Africa. Why are y'all mad at that? That makes no sense to me, because you cannot, y'all complain about, I'm not saying y'all in particular, but I've seen, you know, you can't complain. That's like me complaining about my city, right? Not having enough money, or, you know what I'm saying, they don't have enough money to fix the potholes, right? But then I go up the highway to another city, to a city that is not the same city as mine, to a suburban city, and I go shop at their Walmart. I go shop at their local stores. You feel me? Like for example, I'm not gonna say where I live, but like in the area that I live, there are a lot of local spots, right? And if I decide to circulate my dollar, just like in the black community, it's a perfect example. So the black community will complain about how we don't have money for this and we don't have money for that, but y'all pull y'all money into the pockets of Versace and Gucci and Walmart and all these places, these companies that don't cater to the black community. They're not fixing the potholes in your street. There's no money coming into your city. You see what I'm saying? So I'm using that as an analogy. Why are you mad that? Because if it were me, white, black, or whoever, go ahead and put your dollar over there. You ain't got to kiss their ass by any means. You ain't got to kiss their ass. You don't have to cater to them. You don't have to subject yourself to any type of negativity coming from them. But I'm kind of confused as to, are y'all telling us that y'all don't want us to come over there at all? Because if that's the case, just say that. Are y'all telling us that y'all don't want us spending our dollar over there? Because I'm confused. Because the locals, the people that I have seen that go over to these African countries, a lot of them love it so much that they literally relocate there because they want to reconnect, not because they want to. Because see, I don't know what y'all think is oppression, because oppression is the same thing as far as I'm concerned, the definition. But I'm just, maybe we're looking at oppression different here. But oppression to me would be, let's say, not that this is happening, but let's say like the Chinese, how they have property and they own a lot of things over in America slowly but surely. Let's say the Chinese, a group of Chinese come over and they buy the area that I live in. Like they now own my apartments, and then they raise the rent so high that I obviously can't afford to live here with the job that I live. And then they evict everyone, right? Because they can't live there, and they spruce it all up and everything, and they renovate, and they do all these different things, and this happens in America. It happens in a lot of places, honestly. What is it called? There's a word for it. Gentrification, literally. You buy these places out, and then you make it so that the people who normally live there cannot even afford to live there. You stop, it makes it so that they don't have access to these spaces where they would normally have access. But that's not, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not what's going on the other way around. Number one, because we're not the majority. So I can't be the oppressor if I'm not the majority. You see what I'm saying? Like, if somebody is a rude ass bitch, then that's just one rude person. You know what I'm saying? That's a shitty person. Okay? Like, that's a shitty person. If they're a group of shitty black people, then that's a group of shitty black people. But they're not necessarily oppressors, because in what way do they directly affect you? You know what I'm saying? Like, besides their attitude, which you don't have to tolerate, you don't have to deal with. You see what I'm saying? Now, I can understand if we're talking about a group of black Americans who came to the African country, bought up all the land out there, and then said, nah, y'all can't live here. Or, yeah, you can live here, but only if you pay way more than the amount of rent that, you know what I'm saying, that any Gambian or wherever country you're from would normally pay. That to me would be oppression. Buying out your businesses and then selling to only black Americans, or buying schools and then not educating the African in Africa. Like, that to me would be oppression. If these people are people who are technically in America broke, considered, right? Or middle class, and then they go over and they buy property somewhere where they're considered, I guess, higher, maybe they're considered higher class in that area, but they're not, but they're putting the dollar back in the community. They're going to the local markets and they're buying from the locals. You know, they're buying their clothes from there, they're buying their food from there, they're putting the money in your pocket. What form of oppression is that? Because over here, that's not what we get. We don't get that. We don't get that same privilege over here. When tourists come and they come and spend their money, when white people spend their dollar, they go to places like, you know what I'm saying, like they go to downtown Chicago and they put their monies in the Gucci stores and shit. They go to those luxury apartment complexes and they spend their rent money there. They're not going to nothing black owned and spending their money. They're not going to the music festivals where the black people are and putting their dollar there. They're not coming to the outskirts areas, the cities around nearby, and putting their dollar, investing their dollar in the mill companies or the factories out there, so that there are safer job environments for the people that work there, who are 9 times out of 10 the middle class black people. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not what they're doing. They're pulling that money back into themselves. That's why we call them oppressors. That's why you call them oppressors when the French and the UN and the Chinese come over there and buy property and stuff like that in other countries, in Africa, like in Haiti, what they're doing. There's a reason that they're called elitists, because their sole purpose is to keep their people at a higher level than you. You know what I'm saying? And as a Black American, that's not necessarily what we're doing. And at least, and I can't speak for everybody. I think that's the thing that the woman didn't understand when I was saying, you know, that's not the full experience. And she's like, well, everywhere you go, you hear people talk about it and you hear people say that. But yeah, in reality, half the people talking about that are assuming, because you heard a story from another fellow African friend about some American experience that they had, bad experience that they had with Americans. And you probably had either the same experience or one similar to that. So you're equating 2 bad experiences or 3 bad experiences with a certain group of people who were probably ignorant as shit to begin with, honestly, as the majority, as the entire race of Black Americans in America. And that makes no sense to me. I'm sorry, that just don't make no sense to me. You feel me? Because I can see if it was happening systematically, like Black people were going, like the rich, let's say these rich Black rappers go to Africa and they would like buy up land, you feel me, and then only reserve the land for other rich Black rappers and other elitist people with money. Like, that would make sense to me then, but it doesn't make sense because, not, number one, Blacks in America are going over there in small, like this, it's such a small percentage of people who are even able to do that. Like, I don't know. I don't understand I don't understand exactly what you guys want from us. And that was what I was saying, getting back to anyway, is where I mean the education or the miseducation. Because if I can't understand your placement as an African, you see what I'm saying? Then I have no real way of knowing how to come correct. But in the same breath, as an African, you kind of have to have an understanding of who and how, you know, who we are as people over here in America and how we operate, or what is going with us mentally, what state we're going through mentally, to also then understand why or how we act the way we do. Because what I see a lot of is just a lot of assuming. Like, this guy come in here, literally did not even really listen to the conversation, and the first thing that he commented was, how did I see it? Our people reject overt race pimping. And then didn't elaborate. And that's the other thing. Like, that's like if I'm in a relationship with a man, and it's a fresh relationship, right? Because obviously we don't know each other. I don't know that man. I don't know any Africans personally other than the ones that I've ever worked with or something, you know? That's like being in a relationship and then having a candid conversation about your trauma, about your past experiences, about who you are as a person, your triggers, right? And what triggers you. If you were having that conversation, that's like being in a relationship and supposed to have that conversation and then not having that conversation. You see what I'm saying? That's like me saying, hold on, like, that's like me saying, don't do this particular thing. It irritates the fuck out of me. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, cool, be irritated by it, but let me understand. Because if all it is something simple, like, I don't know, a man washing the dishes. Maybe the girl doesn't feel like she wants him to wash the dishes. Or maybe she doesn't want him to. People raise their voice sometimes when they're having an issue. Let's talk more about that. Like, let's say a man raising his voice would trigger me because I've been in an abusive relationship. If you don't explain the significance of that to your partner, he shouldn't be raising his voice. You know what I'm saying? Like, anyway, and that is something that, like I said, accountability on both sides. Yes, we have some ignorant ass Black people. Yes, they should educate themselves. Yes, you should make sure that before you go to a country, before you travel to another country, you learn the ways of those people or try to get some type of understanding of that culture. But, however, like, I can't, you know what I'm saying? Like, if, instead of being met with the backlash that we're being met with like that, it's almost like there's no real constructive criticism. That's what I'm trying to say. Because instead you're getting a bunch of people who are in their feelings about what they think your intentions are. That's the other thing. Like, no, the Africans that I've been speaking with, at least in the group that I was just saying, like, you don't know me from a can of paint. I just got on this panel to speak, and you're assuming you know, like, you guys call us African booty scratchers. I don't. Never once has that shit ever even came out of my fucking mouth. I've just heard other people say it, so I know what the term is you're talking about. But never in my life have I ever called any person, period, an African booty scratcher. Ever. You see what I'm saying? So for her to get on there and say, you all know what you do, like, honestly, I don't. Because what you're talking about is an experience that I've seen with teenagers. I've seen it with young children. And they ain't calling Africans that, to be honest. Where I grew up, if you was called an African booty scratcher, it was because you had, like, you know how people bite your nails and they're, like, all the way down? It was something stupid like that. Or because you were really, really dark-skinned. Now, I'm not saying that I don't understand, you know what I'm saying, the psychology behind it. It is sick. You see what I'm saying? But what I want you to understand is, it wasn't about anybody being African. Like, it's not about that. Nobody's calling you that, at least not where I was growing up. Like, no one was calling you that because you were African. And still, yet again, we're talking about children here. Dumbass, young-ass kids. I'm just being honest. Kids who would say anything to hurt any other kid's feelings. That's why there are bullies and stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, so I'm trying to figure out about this race thing because, for example, in North Africa, let's talk about it like this. Like, in North Africa, okay, and I know they have their names. Thank God, like I said, you have the privilege of knowing the ethnic groups that you are actually from. So, but when you see the Amazigh people, for example, or Sudanese people, I know there's South Sudan and there's North Sudan now. I believe they're separated. But when they come to America, for example, and other people go, are you in, you know what I'm saying? Like, because there's the Arabic, there's the Arab person from Sudan, and then there's the Neolite. It's weird, because, like, I don't know. It's like y'all bashing us for using the terms of race, and then y'all get in these other countries and then literally identify with those terms. Like, I am a black African, or I'm you know what I'm saying? Like, and yes, by all means, in reality, would we love to do away, the educated people, the people who are learning about themselves, would we love to do away with those terms? The fuck yes! I would love to be able to call myself whatever ethnic group I am other than black. Unfortunately for me, if I go look up all my records, they're all listed as Negro until I get really far back and it's listed as Indian. And even then, it's listed as Indian. I don't even know the damn tribe. So it's like, no, we don't want to just, no, we're not, it's not, that's not us as black people using race or trying to race bait or use race as a privilege, because over here in America, being black is not a privilege, period. It's not a fucking privilege. And honestly, it's not a privilege anywhere we fucking go. Clearly, it's not a privilege in Africa either, because when I go to Africa, the minute y'all find out I'm a black American, everyone hates me. That's what I'm getting. I mean, I hate to, it almost makes me want to cry because I hate to get to this point, but like, where we thought we would be finding unity and connection and learning from each other, we're being met with, we don't like you either. Honestly, we're being met with, fuck y'all, we don't like y'all. Black Americans are arrogant. Black America, this girl was calling me arrogant because she said that I would not let her speak when she literally jumped in the middle of me speaking. And then continued to yell. And then after yelling, then removed me from the panel so that I could not speak, so that she could continue yelling over me and ranting and saying things that were not true. She would not let me finish my statement. But I was the privileged one because because I don't want to tolerate disrespect, because I'm not going to tolerate you talking over me. That makes me disrespectful. That makes me the elitist. Yet but you're yelling over me and you're not even allowing me to speak. You don't even want to hear anything I have to say. because you have an assumption made up on your mind about what I'm saying. Now, one of the things that she said that she pointed out that I totally understand, which she kept saying that I didn't, was how she was saying that as an American, I guess you could say by the money value, because that's the only way I would see it, we have more privilege than the average African, which, it, like I said, if I step my ass over into Africa right now as an American, let's say I had $0, which doesn't make sense because you would be able, if you can't fly with no money. But let's say I had $0, baby. If we take away the money, we on the same boat then. We on the same fucking level. If I were born in Africa, you feel me? Like, you see, the only difference is the dollar amount that I have over here. And like I said, over here, $500 is broke. You see what I'm saying? So boom, when I move in, so I see what, I feel what she's saying, like, okay, if I take my $500 to the Gambia, for example, my $500 is twice that over there. And so, yes, I do end up having more money. Okay? Then I guess you would say your average African neighbor, right? You would have more money. But then here I am, an American, trying to, because 9 times out of 10, if it's an African American that moved from America to Africa, they're trying to get away from that. They have no intentions. I'm gonna be honest, like, they don't have no intentions on putting their dollar in the hands of a white man or the hands of a Chinese man. It's not their intention at all. I'm gonna start with that. So when they come there and they spend their money on your businesses and they buy up your housing and your property and then they buy up land, it's because they want to make them not only a better life for themselves, but a better life for the African people around them. Because I don't know an American person who is even considered living in Africa if it not for the purpose of reconnecting and circulating the dollar within a community that looks like me, so I can stop using the term that black. I don't know not one motherfucking person, because when I go and talk to my friends about moving to Africa, they turn their eyes up at me. They roll they're looking at me like I'm nuts, because a person who would be thinking like that couldn't fathom it. They don't have no plans whatsoever on going to Africa at all. I'm here to tell you. So I don't get that mindset out of your head, honestly. When a black American person comes there and they want to vacation there and they want to spend time with there, it's not to shit on the African community or to look better than any fellow African or any African of the diaspora. It is literally, number one, just to live their best life, and number two, to literally to circulate the dollar in that community, in the given community. I don't know where y'all getting this idea. And if you are running into people who don't know no better or don't know what they, you know what I'm saying? Like, they come to you with some type of ignorance, you don't meet them with yelling and screaming and what we call it over here. I've heard a girl talk about this term. It's called nice nasty. If that's the case, you educate their ass. You put them in a place in the most respectful, disrespectful way ever. You can even be disrespectful. Like we do over here when white people say some ignorant ass shit up out their mouth, at least for me. You know, because you have the black American who just gets upset and will want to punch you in your face and just beat you up. But that really does nothing but put that black person in jail and then further, you know what I'm saying, oppress our people even more. That's not, you see what I'm saying? Like, that's not effective. And then you have the ones who get on TikTok or in the internet and they hit you with education. Now, whether or not that person wants to listen to that education or hear it, that's another thing. But you see what I'm saying? Like, you hit them with facts. Make them feel small. You teach them how dumb they sound. If I'm on here sounding dumb, please teach me how dumb I sound. Educate me on something that I don't know. But in order to educate y'all, I have to let y'all understand that the assumption that the black American wants to oppress you is an assumption, number one. and it's almost an associating with proximity to whiteness. It's kind of like saying, because that I'm from America, a more privileged country where white people were the oppressors. And they keep saying, well, you should, like she said, you may be oppressed there, but if you step outside of that country, baby, like I said, if I step to the UN, any other country other than in a country on the African continent, or maybe in the South, maybe in South American continent, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not any more privileged than you, honey. I don't get more privilege because I'm American. And if it is, as far as like taxes, like I know there are some, you know, I don't know the specifics, but there are some laws that foreigners don't pay taxes out here in America. Like, that's not necessarily the foreigner's fault. That's like these white people that go around here being mad at the immigrants for coming over here and taking the jobs and being able to own gas stations and not pay taxes on it. Well, that's because that's what, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's your government doing that. Fight your government then. Don't fight. I can't be mad at the Arab guy down the street because he doesn't have to pay taxes. I can't. I can be mad at the situation, or I can educate myself and figure out a way to, you know what I'm saying, like to better be able to own some stuff on my own to where I can get cuts on my taxes, but I can't be mad at that because he didn't create that law. You see what I'm saying? Like, the Arab did not come over here and make it so that he doesn't have to pay taxes. No. In fact, 9 times out of 10, the Arab man educated himself on the systems over here in America and the way that financial literacy works and the way that our taxes work and the way that owning a business works. He educated himself on that, and then he came to America and said, now I'm going to be a business owner. Like, I just don't understand why that's a bad thing. I don't know. I guess I'm really confused. And then, like I said, I don't know. What I've seen is a bunch of assuming. A bunch of people assuming that you know the intentions of the Black American who comes to Africa to spend their dollar there. If y'all don't want us over there, just say that. That would make so much more sense. Now, whether or not they decide to do it, that's on them as the individual. But by all means, if you don't want us over there and you don't want me coming to Africa at all to spend our dollar, please let me know that. Because y'all mad at tourism? Y'all, like when they were saying Ari Lennox, and I guess they were mentioning her because she just recently went to Ghana for tourism, and she was talking about the nightlife and the party life and how she loves it. She doesn't love it to be an oppressor. She loves it because it makes her feel good. Because the people over there she feels connected to. She likes the vibe. She wants to spend her money on those beaches. She wanted to go see the point of no return. The gates, the point of no return. She wanted to see those things to be reconnected. Not to be an elitist. You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't even make sense. That's an assumption. Like, dang, we could definitely keep it. If that's the case, then, like, every country should just say, well, why don't y'all stay in y'all country and we stay in ours? Don't come spend your money over here. Don't come visit us. Don't come visit us and take pictures for the gram. So you don't want people taking pictures of the moment and recording the moment? Like, it just don't make sense. It don't make sense. It don't make sense. I was supposed to be playing the game. But yeah. And then it's crazy because I literally got some girl who inboxed me and was like, don't waste your time, sis. So for like, on the Clubhouse conversation. So for like me to get on the pin, for somebody to inbox me and say, don't waste your time, that just goes to show that those women have done that to several people. She gets on there and say, don't dare interrupt me. Don't you dare disrupt me. Muted my mic several times, but you literally jumped in and disrupted me. And then said nothing behind it. Nothing meaningful with any facts or any education behind it. You kind of just said, I think you're in denial and you're trying to say that none of that stuff has happened. I never said that. That never came out of my mouth. I never said that Africans don't experience some type of negativity from Black Americans. I never said that. But in reality, like I said, the people y'all are experiencing that from are ignorant as fuck. They're not the majority. That's the thing. The majority is not walking around calling people no fucking African booty scratchers. The majority is not walking around clicking their fucking tongue trying to be racist and shit like that because that's ignorant. Where I come from, shit like that get you cussed out. If it's some people with any respect for themselves, with any type of education, with any type of home training, you don't do shit like that. So I'm sorry that y'all experience stuff like that with certain people. But if we want to if we want to band everybody together, then I could just band everybody together and say all Africans are mean as fuck. Then all Africans hate Black Americans. All Africans, you know what I'm saying? Like that would be ignorant of me to say. That would be me like saying all Africans are stinky because they don't wear deodorant. You know what I'm saying? Like that would be ignorant shit, which is shit I heard ignorant motherfuckers say before. Because you think that the African down the street at the little shop that you go to represents every fucking African on his goddamn globe. And that would be dumb for me to say. That would be me like saying all African women are aggressive and loudmouth and they click their tongues and they don't like Black women. When I know that's not true. You see what I'm saying? Like, we can't, which is it? Because y'all can't be the pot calling the kettle black now. Let's talk about that. If we really want to keep it funky. I cannot, you know what I'm saying? And I know that it's definitely not the majority and it's not every African, but definitely I'm not going to front like I ain't seen it. Like, you can't say that that's the whole Black American nation, and you know what I'm saying? But if Black people go, well, all Africans don't wear deodorant, or all Africans live in huts, and they come from nothing, and then they come to America to gain money, which we all know is not fucking true. Well, we don't all know clearly, but you know what I'm saying? Like, for those of us who do know, we know that's bullshit, right? Like, you know, there are Africans who live well in Africa and just decide that they want to move to America or work in America for the dollar amount or whatever their reasoning may be. That doesn't necessarily mean that they came from huts with bare feet and flies flying around them in Africa and then came into the riches in America, right? If I said that, if I assumed that, then I'll be a bad guy. But yet, on the other hand, y'all are assuming that all Black Americans want to be oppressors. And we want to, I don't know, like, force something. Because I don't, still missing me with the oppression shit. My head is itching so bad. You know? Because all Africans don't think like that. And I've run into very many Africans who don't even meet me with the animosity that I was met with tonight and that I've been being met with in like comment sections and stuff. Or I ain't even gonna say just me, but like I see other Black people being met with. You know what I'm saying? Like that isn't an always thing. That's not all Africans. I don't see that happening with all Africans. I do see it a lot. You see what I'm not gonna negate the fact that it happened, but I'm not gonna say that that's everybody. Some Africans or people from the diaspora, I like to say, because we don't just get it from Africans. To be honest, I'm noticing that we get a bad rap from a lot of motherfuckers, people who aren't even from Africa, the continent of Africa at all. But like I said, what I think people are doing is you're talking about people who are ignorant, who have lived ignorant lives, or you know what I'm saying? Like, have you ever actually had a conversation with these people? Honestly. Because if you had a conversation with these people, you would know what type of people you were dealing with. That's just my opinion. If you sat and tried to have an adult conversation with the people that you are referring to who act like that, you would know why they act like that. You would be like, oh, this is an ignorant motherfucker. You're ignorant in general. Like, you're probably ignorant in America. So, you see what I'm saying? Like, you would know that. And then you get someone like me, or like someone like someone else who actually wants to have a candid conversation, who actually really wants to bridge the gap and learn from one another. And they don't want to, you know what I'm saying? Like and they don't really want to have the conversation with us, because now you've already labeled me as the same black person as that person that you had a bad experience with. You automatically assume that those are going to be my same opinions, that those are going to be my same behaviors, you know. Anyway, I said all that to say that the only way we'll ever stop fighting, the only way that the Black American will be able to better understand the African, the only way that we will be able to somehow help each other. I mean, here we go, and then I say that, and then I have people talk about, we don't want your help, we don't need your help, baby, I'm not trying. That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean at all. We ain't nobody looking at you with like no charity case. Nobody's trying to help you if you don't want to be helped. But when I say help, I mean help the community, as in educating each other, educating ourselves, better understanding each other, so that we have more unity than we have division. And if y'all don't want to be united with us, then like I said, just say that. Because that will further then let us know as Black Americans that we're not wanted by y'all either. It's like we're the prodigal children, but daddy don't want us home. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of fucked up when you think about it. It kind of make you, because like, let's say I went back in my records and I did find a slave ship and found my African ancestors, and I wanted to, you know what I'm saying? Like, am I always going to be side-eyed and looked at as the American descendant family member? Because now it's kind of making me feel like there's no hope. You know what I'm saying? Like, we might as well just start claiming a whole completely different race then, because, like, literally create our own culture, because we're not wanted in our own country. You know what I'm saying? We're not loved in our own country. We're not loved in any other country in reality. You know what I'm saying? Like, motherfuckers don't give a fuck about us over in China and them Asian countries, as much as they say that I move here and everything is easier. Yeah, because they're either scared of you because they also think that we're all thugs for some reason, or you're a commodity. Like, you're an astonishment. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're in awe of you, but not in necessarily like a admiring way, but just, oh, look, the black person. Like, you're a commodity over there. So like, but anyway, like, if we're not accepted in our own country, and we're not accepted in Europe, I don't know why she talk about we're privileged outside of America. But then we go to these other countries, I guess you could say that financially my dollar would convert to more money there, but then they also hate us. They don't want us, you know, because then y'all got them saying, well, you're appropriating our culture. But if I go back and I've learned what my culture is and I'm trying to connect, is that me appropriating, or is that me connecting with whatever tribe I found out I was from? Or, you know what I'm saying? Or at least a generalization of the tribes that I could be from, because over here we ain't getting no specifics. Unless your parents was immigrants or your parents' parents were immigrants in direct lineage, you're not getting that education. So we got the Americans telling us that we're not really Americans, and that we're Black Americans or African Americans, right? That we're technically foreigners here on this land. And then we got the foreigners who the lands we supposedly come from, who are calling us oppressors and saying your help isn't wanted, your services isn't wanted, your dollar isn't wanted, your tourism isn't wanted, your race isn't wanted. Like, talk about imposing our race upon y'all. Like, we're not imposing anything. This race was imposed upon me. Shit. Fuck I look like, if anything, I mean, I love my own culture, but like, because I don't want to say, like, I don't want to be black. Clearly, I love myself and who I am as a person. But when I say we as black people don't want to be black, I mean, like, all the negativity that comes with it, we don't want that. We don't want that. I don't want to be looked at as the ghetto thug girl, the black girl who knows nothing, who's uneducated. I don't want to be looked at as the girl. You know what I'm saying? Like all the negative connotations and the stereotypes that come with that. Y'all think we want that shit? Mm-mm. So, if being black is like a scarlet, it's like wearing a scarlet letter over here in America, the fuck makes y'all think that when we go to another country, it's all of a sudden like a Superman chest plate? If anything, if they're proud of it, they're literally just saying that they're proud of who they are. Because for so long, everybody has told us that who we are is shit. And so y'all mad at people for being like, I don't even know where this conversation is going no more because it's just confusing to me. It's just confusing. I want to know what y'all want us to do. Y'all don't want us to reconnect, right? Y'all don't want us to reconnect. Y'all don't want us moving to y'all countries. Y'all don't want us visiting your countries for tourism, which, cool. If you don't want tourists to come to your country, then have your government officials close the gates off to you. Just continue exporting, but keep that same energy when it comes to exporting your goods and your spices and shit. If that's the case, keep that same fucking energy. Because the tourism brings the cash, poo. And not because they're wanting to oppress you, because they want to put their dollars there. Where everybody else for the longest time was talking about visiting Paris and Hawaii and all these other fucking places. And now they want to put their dollar and their tourism dollars in countries where they feel like either need it more or maybe they don't need it more, but in their minds, you know what I'm saying? Like they're trying to do it that way and it's being demonized. But yeah. I'll probably do another a more structured video, because this was me just talking off emotion. But like I said, there's no point in having groups for discussions. And that's another thing. And she had a group. It was a group for a discussion about that, but then everybody in the group were Africans who shared the same opinion. And then the only people that were not Africans in the group, which were me and only a few other people who were, African American, you don't want to hear anything they have to say. So is this a discussion or is this a one-sided discussion? Are we learning and developing or are we ranting? Because I don't see how there's going to be any solution if we can't hear both sides of it. Because I hear y'all. I feel y'all too. People are fucking ignorant. And there are some dumbasses who they want to go out and they just want to brag on the gram and show what they got and how they better than a motherfucker. But to be honest with y'all, they doing that over here with their own folk. The dummies that are doing shit like that. Like I said, the other day I was on Facebook and this girl was calling this girl all kind of brokies for drinking Fiji and Dollar Tree water. You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't drink Fiji and you're drinking Dollar Tree water. She was calling people broke for, you know what I'm saying, eating brokies and this and that if they can't afford $500 wigs. Like that type of shit to me is elitism. But you know that she ain't doing that shit with just Africans. Like she doing that shit with her own people over here in America. That's ignorance though. That's a dumbass ignorant person. Like, even though she wasn't my friend, I wanted to get on there and educate her. Like, girl, you talk about Fiji and how Dollar Tree water is unhealthy, but like if you do an alkalizing test, the one that they just showed on TikTok not too long ago, the crystal whatever geyser water that they sell in Dollar Tree is literally just as alkalizing as Fiji. So you're spending twice the amount for education. Make her feel like shit, but educate her. Like I don't understand why that's so hard. Y'all not out here educating nobody. Y'all out here just spewing a bunch of shit that's not even facts. In reality, it may be facts for a small group of motherfuckers, but it's not the majority. I'm sorry. That's not the fucking majority. Because in reality, if you ask me, the majority of the Americans don't know shit about Africa. Not enough to even make a bad comment about Africa. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't know shit. They think all Africans have wear, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then, like I said, she talking about, oh, well, there's these phones and we got all this stuff. Okay, well, then we need to keep that same energy with y'all. Because if that's the case, then you should be not ignorant. You should be not ignorant, and you should be smart enough to understand that that's not the majority. And you should be smart enough to understand why the real purpose behind a lot of people who do relocate to Africa and who are learning about Africa. You know what I'm saying? You should have if that's the case, then with your smartphone, then you should know enough to understand that black people in America do not make race a thing. Race is a thing because they have imposed it upon everyone, not even just us, everyone who is of color. Because I wouldn't necessarily say the entire continent of Africa, because in all actuality, everywhere you go on this globe, when they think of an African, they think of someone of dark skin with those specific phenotypes. But if you are an Egyptian and you come to America, y'all definitely, you know what I'm saying? Like, motherfuckers would know. They didn't have to explain how as an Egyptian, you then have to explain how there are the Arabic Egyptians or you know what I'm saying, mixed of Arabic descent Egyptians, and how they are the Neolites, or how they are the black Egyptians, or how they are the Amazigh. You feel me? You have to explain that. But in general, when you get asked, it's kind of like you have to, in some way, shape, or form, explain that you are black. If it's not, obvious. Therefore, race is a thing. That's not us trying to impose anything. I don't know. I'm off it. If anybody wants to have a discussion about it, leave comments in there and I will respond to them. Because I know it's probably going to be a bunch of ignorant comments on both ends. So, my head's itching. I keep pulling these. Trying to